Welcome to Biology Made Easy. Today we are looking at levels of organization of life. Yes, so we are going to look at how cells are organized in the organism. That is simply what that makes. You remember we talked about the cell as a basic structural and functional units of life. So if I have a cell like this one, it means the whole organism, every structure of it, down to the level, is a cell. All right? That is the cell being the basic structural unit. And not only structural, is the basic functional unit. The functions that is occurring in this whole organism, it's occurring in a cell. So if we have this as a cell, in a plant cell, then every bit of it is a cell, structural unit as well as functional unit. All right? So to be able to do this, therefore, the cell, to work as a cell in everywhere, there must be something happening to the cell. So if we have a cell like this and it's the basic structural and functional unit covering everywhere, this cell in some parts of the body must go under changes so the cell becomes differentiated and specialized. So let's define the term differentiation. So differentiation is a process where a cell undergoes changes in shape and structure and acquires specific functions. Cells are also specialized when they acquire specific shapes, structures, and chemical changes in the cytoplasm, which enables the cells to perform specific functions. So let's look at a few examples of cells that have differentiated and specialized. Sperm. Here is a sperm cell. This is an ordinary cell that has taken the shape like this. Here is this bit, is the cytoplasm is withdrawn into a long thing. And part of it is the head. There's a cap here called acrosome with enzymes in it. This cap with enzymes will penetrate an egg cell, dissolve an egg cell. The enzymes dissolve the membrane of the egg. You know, sperm and egg fertilization brings about a zygote. So this sperm has a head and has a cap here with enzymes. Then it has a middle piece here, contains a lot of mitochondria to produce a lot of energy for this sperm to move. All right? And then it has a tail that will lash back side to side to propel the sperm. So you see a simple cell differentiated and specialized. All right? Another differentiated cell, we can look at a neuron or a nerve cell. This cell with cytoplasm, the cytoplasm is drawn into a long thing here and part of it into these projections with tiny hair-like structures at the top of it and a big nucleus, because the whole thing is going to transport nervous impulses. An electrical chemical wave is going to go on with this structure, and the whole brain spinal cord is made up of neurons, cells like this. Began as an ordinary cell, differentiated, specialized to conduct impulses. All right? Then we have a cell like this. This is an ordinary simple cell. It's called a ciliated cell. It's an ordinary simple cell and it has hairs, hair-like structures that comes out from the cytoplasm. These hair-like structures are called cilia, right? One is cilium, plural is cilia. And you have these ciliated cells in places like the oviduct, respiratory tract. There's some in the trachea, bronchi, where we breathe in and out. These cells are there, ciliated cells. They line the tissue. What the ciliated cells do is cilia waft rhythmically. They move rhythmically, all right? Wherever they are. If they are in the respiratory passages, cilia move rhythmically and are associated with mucor, and then they trap bacteria. So if you are able to cough out mucor filled with bacteria, it's partly because of the work of the ciliated cells. The same differentiation and specialization can be found also in plant tissue. This is a Palisade cell. This cell is in the leaf. The cell is filled with a large vacuole, and the cytoplasm is left to the sides and has chloroplast. The large vacuole is to store sugars from photosynthesis in the leaf. The leaf undergoes photosynthesis, makes sugars, and the large vacuole stores it temporarily before it moves along. The shape of the cell and everything is organized. We'll talk more about it when we look at leaves of plants. Then we have root hairs. The root hairs is found part of the root. The ordinary cell develops an extension, cytoplasmic extension like this, and much of the cell is filled with a vacuole, but the cytoplasm is left here and the nucleus is almost at the tip. And a lot of these cells are found, the root hair cells. And what they do, you see the cell has this thing, it increases the surface area where water will be absorbed. So if the cell was like this, only this, then water can only go through here, small area. But it has extended this, so water can go in from a lot. So it has increased the surface area of the cell so that it can take in plenty of water and mineral salts. Specialized root cells. We can look at specialized cells also in the xylem. The cells are long. Xylem, the cells are very long, tubular. You know the xylem conducts water and mineral sources. They take them up. All right, so they have long tubular cells. The cells have walls that are thickened, reinforced, so that as the water and mineral salts move through, they will not break. These are a few of the uncountable numbers of differentiated and specialized cells. Good. Now, we want to look at how these cells are organized in the organism. They are not just arranged haphazardly. They are neatly organized, and we want to look at how the cells are neatly organized. These are cells. These cells are organized into what we call tissues. So they will be put together to form a tissue. We'll define what a tissue is. And the tissue, if we have this one tissue here and another tissue here, these tissues are put together as organs. A number of tissues are put together as organs. And then a number of organs. So I have organ, organ, organ. So these are organs. And this become an organ system. So the organ system, a lot of organ systems are put together. So this is an organ system, organ systems, and they are put together to form the organism. Cells are organized neatly. So in a short, you have the definition of cells, tissue, organ, organ system in your shorts as notes for you. All right? Good. So Now we want to look at examples of cells, tissues, organs, organ system, and organism. Looking here, examples of these cells, tissues, organs, organ system. We have the level of organization here, example in animals and example in plants. Example of a cell, we have a bone cell. Bone is made up of cells, okay? Bone cell. And you can also have a muscle cell as example of cells. Then when you come to tissue, we have bone. Bone is tissue, all right? And muscle, fiber. Muscle is a tissue. Then when you come to organ, the tooth is an organ. The tooth is an organ. It's made up of bone, that is enamel, and blood, capillaries. When you come to an organ system, we have digestive system. This digestive system is made up of the tooth, esophagus, stomach, you have liver. All these are organs. And all these organs put together to form an organ system. That's the digestive system. And then if you come to muscle and muscle fibers and heart, you come here, you have the circulatory system. So all the systems then put together, you have an organism, a complete, whole, independent organism. The same thing you can have in plants. You have mesophyll cell, you have a mesophyll layer, talking about the leaf, right, as an organ. Then organ system, you have leaf, stem, roots, shoots is an organ system. You have a cell, the xylem is a cell, but the whole xylem is a tissue. Then others come in and you have a stem, which is an organ, all the tissues put together. And then you have a shoot system, and then you have a plant. So examples of the level of organization, the 5 level organizations, you see cell, tissue, organ, organ system, organism. That is how cells are organized in an organism, not haphazardly at all. Now, we want to look at something different, types of organisms based on level of organization. You see, there are various types of organisms. Some organisms, the whole organism is a cell, and that is a unicellular organism. So the level of organization of that organism is cell level, cellular level. The whole organism is one cell. And there are organisms that are many cells, multicellular organisms of organization. All right, let's look at unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, that's organism made up of only one cell. You can have those that are solitary, one cell alone, living alone, all right? Unicellular and solitary. Examples are amoeba, paramecium, that's animal-like ones. There are plant-like ones like Chlamydomonas and Chlorella. They are single cells living on their own, unicellular. That's their level of organization is cell level. And then you have other unicellular organisms that live in a group, all right? They are not alone. Jelly puts the cells together. The cells are embedded together in jelly, all right? So you have individual cells embedded by jelly. That is colonial unicellular organisms. So you have these cells. They are living on their own, but there's jelly. They are embedded in jelly. There's jelly around them that puts them together. And these colonial unicellular organisms, some of the colonial organisms, they are independent cells. The cells do not have anything to do with themselves, each other. But in some colonial unicellular organisms, there's some kind of division of labor. There's some of the cells that will be reproductive cells. So they are colonial, and there's a little bit of interdependency among them or not. Then you come to multicellular organisms. The level of organization, unicellular organism, the level of organization is cell. Multicellular organisms are organisms that are made up of so many cells. But different organisms have different levels of organization. They end it there. Some organisms are just tissue level. The whole organism is just made up of tissues. Hydra is an example. Spirogyra is an example. Filamentous, just a filament of tissue. Then you have organisms that end up as organs, flatworms. That liver fluke you find there is just an organ. Then some end up organ system levels, that's segmented worms, earthworm. We'll look at these a bit detailed, and then you have organisms like man. So even in the multicellular organisms, there are various levels of organization. Very neat. Good. Now that we have all this, what are the implications? What are the implications of the size of organisms? So size of organisms and its implication. Size also means level of organization. Once you are very big, your level cannot be just cell. All right? So level of organization and its implications. You are big, you have so many cells organized into tissues, organs, organ systems. Is there any implication? Yes. If you are a unicellular organism, you are only made up of one cell. If you are a unicellular organism, you are made up of one cell. Your surface area, look, this one cell, the surface area of this cell and its volume. This one will have a large surface area to volume ratio. Is that not so? It's only one cell, flat. Therefore, diffusion of substances is easy. Therefore, substances move by diffusion, simple diffusion, fast. All right. Now, if you are a multicellular organism, here you are this organism made up of a lot of cells. This multicellular organism is thick. It means the surface area to volume ratio is small. Surface area to volume ratio is small. It means that this organism, the implication is that substances cannot move easily by only diffusion. All right? So substances can't move fast by diffusion alone. All right? And that is why when the organism is a multicellular, it needs conducting tissues. All right? Therefore, conducting tissues will need. So, there is the need of conducting tissues. And then diffusion can take place. That is why in large organisms, conducting tissues are put in, like blood vessels. They do the conducting, this is a conducting tissue, they do the conduction, and then so the blood vessels will go through, supply nutrients, or xylem vessels, they will go through to supply nutrients. This is a conducting vessel, if you like. And then when the conducting vessel have brought substances close to the cell, then diffusion can take place. All right? So move the substances and now diffusion can take place. So that is the implication. So once you are thick, you have higher levels of organization, there's the need for conducting tissues. But you can imagine that organisms that are only one cell level have advantages and disadvantages. Organisms that are tissue level will have their own advantages and disadvantages. Think about it and make suggestions as to the advantages and disadvantages. In any case, how can you find out whether an organism, how can you say that this organism, I suspect, is at a tissue level or organ system level, or it's a whole organism? So the assignments of today's lesson: suggest the advantages of unicellular organisms. B. Suggest the disadvantages of unicellular organisms. 2. What is the importance of the jelly in which colonial cells are embedded? We've had enough for the day, and thank you for being around. Bye-bye.